Yo, what up, y'all? Samari here, with the Secure Future Movement. We're filming. We're having another conversation about with another entrepreneur who's been inside of our community, who we've linked up with. Our guy, Mastermind Rich, who's very influential in our space as podcast, as business coach, as a connector of people, has a lot of things going on. And, we just want to have a conversation, pretty much of the people inside of our community, so people outside of the community can get value, but then also just to see how he bet on himself, because I do believe in betting on yourself. And I think that when it comes to entrepreneurs, there's different ways to bet on yourself. There's different ways to do different things. So, Rich, what up, bro?
Yo, what's good, man? Appreciate you.
What's going on? What's going on? So listen, y'all, this is a conversation. It's not, I wouldn't even call it an interview. We're just having a conversation for 20, 25 minutes to break down, what he's doing, what he has going on, and so on and so forth. So let's start with this. This is the first question, and I've done a few interviews, but this is the first time that I've asked this question. I'm gonna ask this question probably a lot. If you can go back 10 years, based on what you know now, what would you tell the 10-year-old, the 10 years younger you?
The ten, the 10 years younger me, I wouldn't tell him a single thing.
You wouldn't tell me anything?
I wouldn't tell him anything.
Like if you can go back in a portal and give your younger self advice,
Mhm.
what that advice be?
I wouldn't give myself advice
Why not?
because, when you become the pioneer of what you feel like is your industry or whatever you feel like your calling is, then how you got there definitely matters the most. And how I got there to the level of what I do and the companies that I create is from the lack of advice that I got back in the day. So, people not giving me options, people not telling me what to do is what ended up me wanting to do what I do now. And that's creating options for other people that didn't tell me that stuff. But because I'm the pioneer of that, if I had that type of advice that I'm looking for now, I wouldn't be the pioneer of that. It would probably be somebody else.
So do you think that, and that's actually the first time I've heard that. Um, One of the first times that I've heard that. But you don't think there are ways that you could have fast tracked your success or wherever you are now with information? Like if somebody can come and say, "Hey, look, instead of making this decision, make that decision," or instead of you having to fail, I guess, a little bit more, you could have failed a lot less and got to your destination a lot faster.
It's absolutely correct. I could have got to a destination a lot faster, but it wouldn't be this destination a lot faster because my mind was highly open at that time, and so any option that was presented to me, I was taking it. And so that's how I got caught up with a lot of people in the streets because those were the options that they gave me to make money at the time. That's how I got caught up in network marketing early on because that was the option that was presented to me at that time. That's how I ended up in the military and going on deployment because that's what the option that they gave to me at that time. So if somebody gave me a different way to think and make money back then 10 years ago, then my mind would completely be different.
So you're saying, so pretty much you're saying you could have been successful a lot faster or in another destination, but you wouldn't have ended up here. But you like where you ended up pretty much.
I do like where I ended up because, the type of people, even us having this kind of conversation, there's the story that I've been able to share, the failures that I did go through because I didn't know, that is going to speak to a lot more people than me just being able to change my life. Now, granted, you could say the same thing like, well, if you had succeeded faster, then you could help a lot more people faster. But if I didn't go through some of those struggles that I did go through, would I really want to help as many people as I do now?
That's what's up. So listen. So we met through a good friend of ours, who's crushing it right now. On a boat on a yacht. It was great. You did not ride the jet ski. I don't know why. Um, and then we came together. You have a podcast that you're crushing it at. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. But we really got to connect. With these events that you've been a part of, that I've been a part of, that we're building, called the Entrepreneurs Link Up. And I guess I want to hear your thoughts on, what you like best about the event, how have you gained value from the event, and why it's important to be at networking events, and if not at networking events, but building your network and building value with your network.
Events to me, especially on that type of level with all different types of people you're going to see in a room like that. You're going to see people that haven't started business yet. You're going to see people that haven't scaled their business yet. You're going to be see people that haven't made money. You're going to see people that made a lot of money. You're going to see people that are well along in their businesses. But to me, the aspect of what I want to bring back to this the world in general is less content creation, more people interaction. And so I'm an advocate for that more. I don't want people to go visit my sites as often. I don't want people to go see me on social media as often. I want them to see me in person. I want to have a person to person kind of connection. And yes, that does mean a lot less money up front. But in the era that I grew up in, I'm a little older. And so, just that connection based type of network marketing and stuff that I did, like when you connect with somebody physically in person, when you have those conversations up front, you get to see a lot more of that individual. You get to get a lot more vulnerable with that individual. And I feel like it helps on a different level because we weren't brought into this world with a certain level of technology introduced to our lives. We introduced it to our lives. And so is technology pivotal for what we want to do? Absolutely. But there's ways that we still have to keep the most definitive way of how we interact with each other alive, and that's through an event like yours. And so you putting that on, bringing all these different professions, industries, type of people into the room to really just have a conversation. Sometimes it's about business, sometimes it's just about connecting with somebody. Somebody's outfit might look good. I've been on a boat, talked about business. I've been on the boat and talked about absolutely nothing, but both were good conversations just based off of interacting with another like-minded individual.
So, what are some of the things you took away from, I guess, the entrepreneurs link up? Since you are, an alumni, you've been to all three, so which is great. We got another one coming up. But what are some of the specific things that it's brought value to you and what you have going on?
Well, everything has brought value to me. Just the fact that I'm interacting with other humans and keeping that point alive. But you can touch on every category. I've made money from the events. I've made connections from the events. I've made stories from the events. I've made experiences from the events. And so, in every aspect that you could think of as value, it's created that for me to, or anybody that's looking for any one of those categories of value.
That's dope. Yeah. So one of the things that I want to make sure that everybody gets, and when you're building your network as well, is you want to provide value to that network, because you can have a network, you can have people in your phone that you can call and say hi to, or that you have and that you've been connected with. But I love to tell people we have to learn how to build up our own value. So when we do have these contacts or come across these people and have these plays, then we're able to provide some type of value, whether that's being a connector, whether that's having the thing that they need, or whether that's having the money, or whatever it looks like. So I just want to make sure that we keep doing that, and I appreciate you for pulling up, and y'all, this guy is killing it. So what else you got going on? So how are you betting on yourself, bro?
Betting on myself,
Yeah, cause that's this is what this conversation is about. It's about really betting on yourself. We can talk about a lot of things, but what are some of the things that you're doing to bet on yourself?
some of the things that I'm doing to bet on myself. Well, that's a loaded question because this casino's rigged, man. The house always wins, bro. And so, even in saying that is I've never had a plan B. It's just how I live my life in general. I've always been in a more uncomfortable situation. And so there's never been like a backfall. I don't have like a college degree to rely on. I mean, I have like the smaller ones, but I don't have any other like field of expertise other than what I set out to do, and that's it. And when you really build your business and build yourself in that type of way and really put those hours in, like I've actually paid the price, physically, mentally, verbally, all of that stuff, financially especially, but just putting in those 10,000 hours, like in business, that's my 10,000 hours. A lot of people may have them in different categories. For me, it's in creating businesses. And so I've spent 10,000 hours worth of creating businesses, and I've made several businesses that do over six figures. And at first, I just kind of hid behind the business because I'm not a social media person. I don't post a lot. I don't have a lot of followers. I don't, and I do that on purpose because I do pop out. I do have more in-person interactions, and if you know me, you know me, and I kind of like to keep it that way because it creates a level of exclusivity, and I like to give that type of exclusivity to certain individuals. I don't want everybody to have access to me. Social media, I feel, bridge the gap to where people feel like, oh, just because you posted on your story, you should be answering their text messages or their emails, or responding to them right away, or feel like they can track your every movement or every life. And back in the day, that wasn't like that. They didn't know
Right.
when you was gonna respond or when you were
Right.
gonna do stuff. And so, me betting on myself is just making sure that everything is aligned for everybody that I have aligned with me. And so I do have employees and contractors that work with me. I don't say that they work for me, because without them, my companies don't, don't thrive. I don't do the level of work that they do. They do more of the physical upfront. You're going to see them at the events. You're going to see them, doing the upfront work, but you see me, well, you don't see me, but I do all the stuff on the back end.
So I heard one, congrats on everything that you're doing, but I heard that you said creating businesses. So what does that mean per se? When you work with somebody, are you coaching them to, like, what are you coaching them to do? But I heard you say create business. So how can, let's say somebody wanted to work with you, how are you helping entrepreneurs create business? Like, how does that even happen?
So as a business mindset coach, what I go in and I focus on is those behavioral patterns. And those are key things that they do in their everyday life that may be just of second nature to them right now, but they just do it instinctively at this point, because that's what business psychology comes into. And so I don't really read as many business books as people would think. I mostly read, psychology, books, study things like the Freudian experience, the Feynman techniques, the Carl Jung's, the all that type of stuff, the 12 archetypes, going into the actual personalities. And when we sell to another individual, we're actually selling to that person's instinct. And in us selling to that person's instinct, everybody is instinctual with what they make. And so, people make emotional decisions first and logic backed after. And so, appealing to like the heartstring for certain things. But in creating money versus making money, the biggest difference is you can make money in a lot of different ways. You can go there right now and make money in real estate or crypto or stocks or whatever NFTs at the moment or whatever it has, where you have the ability to make money. But when you create money, that's creating a process, that's creating a foundation. And so I help them focus on their foundational systems, their foundational processes, and mitigating all those limiting beliefs and everything to set up a structure so that their kids or their wife or whoever they want to pass their stuff on to doesn't necessarily have to do what they did for that business. They can just reap the benefits of the business because it's a process. All you're doing is handing a process. They don't have to be an expert in that field at all. One of my businesses that I own is a production company. If I wanted to give it to my kid at the level that I'm at, he wouldn't have to do a single thing regarding a camera. He doesn't even have to know how to use a camera, but he would be in charge of videographers and photographers. He would, of course, have to learn some of the name terminology for certain things, but it's on autopilot because everything has a foundation already. It has acting managers in place. It has acting, regular people in place, contractors, all of that stuff. And so it's all on autopilot. We already pay for SEO. We already pay for marketing. We already pay for keyword optimization. And so literally it would just be, give and go.
Right, no, 100%. That's dope how you said a lot of times people, you pretty much are saying a lot of times people work, you know, not even on their business, but in their business. And
Correct.
it's crazy how you said process, because I believe in creating systems as well. And when I was younger in network marketing, that's where I kind of got my business, I guess things started when I was 19. They always talked about, a system. Well, what does your system stand for? A system stands for save yourself time, energy, and money. And a lot of us, even myself sometimes, I catch myself, like, it's like I call it the group project syndrome. So when I was in the ninth grade, one of my teachers, Mr. Fakara, he always used to have us do these group projects, and I would always never allow anybody to do their part. I would do everything, and we would always get an A, but I would be like, don't even worry about it. I'm gonna do it because I trust myself more than really I trust y'all. And y'all could be great, but I just know I'm gonna do it. And so I think that in creating these systems, you also have to find the right team, the right people, because when we do create these systems that are going to save us time, energy, and money, we have to make sure the people that are working inside the system that are helping the system run are doing their job too. So, what do you? I guess you say about what do you say when it comes to finding the right people so people can scale their business and grow their system?
I say that if you start looking for the right person, you'll never have a profitable business.
Mm,
Because when you start looking for the right people, you're automatically putting a certain level of expectation on that person. And there's no such thing as the right person for your business, because if we could, we would want a duplicate version of ourselves, and that's not
right.
possible. And so, in searching for the right person, I would say switch that terminology to searching for the best fit. Does
Mm.
that person align with my goals? Does that person have my end vision in mind? Does that person have the passion for it? Does that person have the skill and the knowledge for it? And they're going to have things that are pros and con based. They're going to have things that you don't like about them. And so that in itself is not going to make them the quote unquote right person, but they could still be the best fit. They're going to have mistakes, and you have to be able to be okay with people making mistakes within your business, because when you do high level business, just the other day, somebody lost a client, and the company, and that client brought us about $75,000 a year. And so, you're gonna have those mistakes. They didn't do anything crazy malicious, but they didn't handle it like I would have handled it. You know what I'm saying? And so, in trying to see myself as another me, if I felt like they were the right person, I would outwardly express that to them, and I would be upset, but they handled it in the way that they could handle it. And, it was professional in the respect, but it wasn't what was needed for the job. But still having to be okay with that and moving forward is what we have to do as business leaders. If we lead our companies, if we're the CEO, acting CEO, whatever we are, we have to be able to navigate these type of rooms and say, hey, this is the best fit for the job.
So, how would you have handled that situation differently? Losing a client that brings in almost six figures to your business. How would you have handled it?
Well, it would have been a deeper conversation based off of, what they needed at the time. And so they were being a little more unreasonable with how they wanted to do frequencies of like certain shoots and everything like that. And it was definitely going to cost more of us on the back end. But now, you know, that's a simple, okay, now we're using an extra 10K out of our pocket to accommodate their budget. Cool. So instead of 75,000, we might be making 65 out of them. But still, this is the creation of money. So bringing in that 65 is still better than bringing in zero. So, to them, they didn't want to, perceive themselves as, oh, we're going to get walked over, or we're going to get used. And I had to tell them, like, that's a pride thing. We have to let things like that go, because at the end of the day, we can still always renegotiate. Once we set the level of value, like, hey, this is what you're paying for, this is why you need this, then it becomes a different conversation versus us trying to measure, who got the bigger, who got the bigger thing.
Cojones.
And you know what I'm saying? And so we have to just let go of that pride sometimes, and we got to take that on the chin. Like, okay, cool. We'll provide you this level of that, but this is what we need in return.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I believe that owning, let's just call it like owning 50% of something great and owning 0% of something bad, which is nothing. Is better
Correct.
than especially if you're building a relationship. And I believe that as relationships get built and as progress gets made and the value that is brought between both sides, one person has the value of maybe creating the content, the other side has the value of, hey, you're getting paid to create this content. It all helps and it flows. And as time goes on, I think the more value we provide, the better those conversations go. So, hey, but
Correct.
even though you lost a six figure client, almost that's gonna come two three times fold. I believe
Absolutely.
that.
We've already gained two back.
Oh, there you go. So I believe when a door closes, as long as you are doing stuff the right way, when the door closes, it's gonna make room for something else, and that's a problem, or not even a problem, but a solution to a lot of our issues is not letting go of, not necessarily in that particular case, but not letting go of things that are old that need to go in order to bring in multitudes of new things in. So
Yeah, and that's also part of what I teach is, just having good SOPs in place. Because even though we lost somebody like that, having a way to gain other people like that is the same way, because we also can't have our business rely on just one person, and that's a lot of what these people have is they may get a high ticket client, or even for, I'll use the example since we're on it, the videographers, they'll attach themselves to a celebrity and follow them around all day and do this and that. What happens when that celebrity gets tired? They now take all your time, they now take all your experience, all of them, and they're making it formatted to them. They could be paying you very well, but they'll be paying you very well until they're not. You know what I mean? And so having a foundation in place, that's why I teach the way I teach, because it doesn't matter if that person left. Of course, we don't want them to leave. Why would we ever want to lose money? But things happen. Even if that person didn't leave, just in August, we had a high level client that we did content for 4 different locations, and we had an active month every other month kind of deal going on. He died. You know what I'm saying? And do people ever account for that? He died. And so that took a whole level of everything out of the out of the game as well. And so just being able to have proper business solidified to where even in the downtimes, even if something like COVID happens, even if whatever happens, do you have a way to maneuver towards making sure that everybody can still eat?
and that's great. And in one of my other businesses that I was pushing before, it was a health and wellness business. It's crazy you say rely on one person, because I was heavily relied on like one or two people. And when those one or two people didn't want to work, my business went down. And so from that point, I was like, man, I can't rely on one person. I have to make everything that I do, an ecosystem where, it's not just one person, but it's a lot of different people bringing a little bit to the table. So if one person or two people or three people or 25% of the people decide to do something else, they're not providing so much to where, everybody's doing their 1%. So that's 25%. Okay, let's go and try to replace them and give more value. But
Facts.
listen, I want to talk about, one of the challenges that you said you were going to do in creating your podcast when we first met. And I brought some guests on your podcast. I've been on your podcast. Great podcast. If you want a podcast to get on, wherever you see this, definitely tap in with. We're in Florida, by the way, the best state in the world. Tap in with my guy's podcast. You changed the name.
Attractive mindset, same
Oh,
name.
you did? Okay, you didn't change the name. Okay, attractive. You changed the page,
The logo.
the logo. Attractive Mindset Podcast. He interviews amazing entrepreneurs. A lot of us have met up in LinkedIn Mastermind, but the podcast game, like, why, if you're a business coach, why a podcast? Why like, for what?
So it all goes back to, a level of leverage, and it goes back to a level of understanding marketing. A lot of people confuse marketing with advertising. Advertising is once you already have the content and you push it out, but marketing is the actual collection of data. So, me being a somewhat professional marketer, I understand how to leverage other people's markets while not having to grow my own audience, because I can leverage somebody else's audience. So it's almost the same thing. Could I be doing more if I grew my audience? Absolutely correct. But I'm doing the same amount that everybody else is doing from not growing my audience by just leveraging other people's audiences. And that in itself is a skill, because if you look on those pages, I only have 700 followers. I got maybe 382 subscribers on YouTube, and my personal page maybe 1,500 followers. But even within that, the challenge that I had for the podcast was to get to 6 figures in a year from scratch. That's not using any of my other money, any of my production money, anything else. Like literally whatever attractive mindset the brand, the business brought in, I could use back on the business and everything. And it's September, and we're at $62,000. And this is in an industry that I've never been in. This is in an industry that I'm learning it as I go, but I'm using principles that I learned in my other businesses to really solidify that. And I learned things that I don't like. I took the merch route, and a lot of people wouldn't be transparent about it, but I kind of failed because I didn't like it. It's something that I realized that, yeah, I can make a lot of money in it, but it's not for me. I don't have a passion for it. And so I did, and I was able to sell out on pre-orders for my bucket hats right away because people knew me. And I was able to make that connection through me. And so when I sold that first 100, I was like, oh man, I could do this. And I went and I bought like 300 more. And I launched the website maybe like a week and a half ago, and I have not sold a single one off of that website yet. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just the transparency of entrepreneurship. Some things are going to go really well and some things are not. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. Now I'm
Right,
more so pivoting to setting up for pop-up shops with them because I have the merch. So I'm definitely going to make those sales in some type of way. But
right.
after I do finish selling those, I may not go back into merch again, at least not right now, because that's not for me. And so just on my journey, just learning how to navigate different fields of what I like, what I don't like, and still keep it fun. Because with entrepreneurship, a lot of people end up making it a job for themselves. And oh, I got to chase this dollar, I got to chase this, I got to chase that. And
Right.
absolutely, you want to make yourself profitable. You want to make yourself, comfortable to move around and do what you want to do. But it's not always about the money. It's about the time freedom that you can have with it.
So when you're doing your podcast, first of all, you said congrats, you made $64,000 plus 60K, on your podcast. What are some of the ways that, if you don't mind sharing and giving a little bit again, what are some of the ways that you're generating revenue, just from your podcast?
And so, just the different avenues of approach is the coaching programs.
Right,
And I didn't have any digital offers before this year. I do now. So
right.
making digital offers, making a tangible item for somebody to actually hold. And that's a big issue for people that sell services in the term of intellectual property, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how do I get somebody to actually buy what I'm trying to, sell, especially if it's at a high price? And so just maneuvering in that way, being able to minimize or, downsize on the pricing for some of my coaching packages and put it in little bundles. I've made money that way. But on the actual podcast itself, I've gotten some sponsorships. People just like what I'm doing and they're like, hey, we'll give you some money. And I'll go to specific people and say, hey, I have this person coming on this podcast. And they'll look at that person's audience, not mine. Mine only has 700 followers, but they'll look at theirs who has 150K followers or 1.2 million followers. And I say, hey, I can run your ad or I can run your stuff in the beginning of their episode. And I've made, anywhere from as little as 500 to, 1,500 doing just that alone. Or when people come on, we make these content folders for them and say, hey, we're giving you content, in a VIP package. We give them the full video, the audio, the shorts, the reels, the bordered reels, and everything, because those are for the people who understand the prevalence of content, and people do pay for that as well. So there's different ways that you can do it, and I haven't even begun to monetize from the actual social medias on it yet.
No, 100%. And you're one of the people who actually inspired me to document my process even more, and even eventually do my own podcast. And hopefully we'll link up one day and partner up. But I think everybody, especially if you're in the marketing digital course, if you're an entrepreneur, should have a podcast, and not even a podcast, but should have an outlet where you can create content and then post it. And a podcast is the perfect form because everybody, for some reason, loves this podcast form, and it's especially in the business world. So congrats to that. What are your goals
Thank you.
with that in the next, I guess, the next 3 months to finish out the year, going into 2024?
Finish out the year is to complete the challenge, which is get to six figures in this business, and we have Black Friday, coming up. And so that's been my main prep, is to just finish out the end of sales and that last push, that last 30K. And it's very feasible at the stage that we're at right now. But even forward from that, going to 2024, is just to keep expanding that audience, keep expanding that reach, get into different rooms. I just learned a statistic the other day. They say about 5% of social medias outside of LinkedIn are, the average people on there make less than 50,000 net a year. And LinkedIn by itself makes 57% over 50,000 a year. And
Mm.
so, just changing my audience structure. I've been on LinkedIn way more. I've been in more LinkedIn rooms, and that alone has brought me some money. And I've only been doing that for the past month and a half.
Wow. Well, shoot, man. Listen, I really believe on. I really believe in betting on yourself. I really believe in the entrepreneur. Even if you have a 9 to 5 or a regular career, I believe that you can still create something from being an entrepreneur. And I also believe that leverage is one of the most important things that you can do. You know, either you have the money, you have the knowledge, or you know how you have the connections. And so leveraging is one of the most important things that you can do. So I'm ready for your story. I can't wait to see what you do. Hopefully I can come on the pod sometime soon, and and get it popping. But any last words you want to say to anybody else that may see this, or so they can bet on themselves?
Yeah, man, just attack. Intention is everything. Make sure that you're super intentional about everything you do. And if you're not that intentional yet, well, you have people like me. So you can find
Right.
me at Real Money Bag Rich on all platforms, and basically just tap in. Attractive mindset if you want to hear it from other special individuals as well.
All right, brother. Appreciate you. It's time to secure your future. Let's go.
Yes, sir.